You meet a lot of interesting people on the internet in 2022. Let me tell you about that. If you ever try online dating, I highly recommend you not to. It's probably a lot more safer and more intelligent to meet somebody organically. Like, whether it be at a grocery store, at your job, at the movie theater, if you go by yourself and you're like, oh, somebody else is sitting by themselves. Hello. I made the mistake of meeting this bitch. Her name was Blair. I met her a couple days ago. I talked to her for just a couple hours, in a total of 5 hours, off and on the whole day, with a 3-hour phone call. Now, what does Blair look like? Oh, Blair she was a looker. What I really liked about her is the fact that she's half black, half white. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Her politics wasn't complete shit, so I'm like, okay, that's cool. Now take it, I don't care what your political beliefs are, but at least understand what the fuck you're talking about whenever you talk about shit. That's all I'm saying. She had a pretty good head on her shoulders for that, just for that regard alone. But when it came to everything else, I was just kind of like, oh my god, this bitch. Hazel eyes, black hair, great big personalities, nice little figure. She's a little tall though, she's 5'9", so I'm like, okay, I can work with that. I'm 6'2". But the problem is though, is I don't like vain people. This girl is incredibly vain, so all she did was sit there and talk about, oh, I'm so beautiful, I'm so pretty. Like, my friends always wonder why I would settle with a guy who's really nerdy, and I'm just kind of like, okay, number one, I may look like I am, but the nerdiest thing I do is play World of Warcraft and maybe Pokemon. That's it. I don't give a shit about like Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. I don't do any of that weird shit. I don't give a fuck about superheroes. I'm pretty much into the alternative shit, like music. That's what I'm into. Music, movies, that's my nerd shit right there. And that's not even really considered nerd shit, so I'm just kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about? So she kept talking about like how awesome she is, and she's like, I can't date people who aren't on my level. So I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. So, you know, me just being me, because, you know, I have that sociopathic tendencies to manipulate people, I'm kind of just tuning in at this point. Because that's already strike one with me. I don't give a fuck how pretty you are. If you have to sit there and continuously tell me and the rest of the world how pretty you are, you're probably not very confident in yourself and you just want validation. I don't got time a day to validate somebody. If I like somebody, I will compliment them, but I'm not going to fucking do it just to make you feel better about yourself. No. I mean, I could just clearly tell that you had your lips done, your breasts are probably not real, your ass is definitely not real. That shit was too damn round. But I digress. Anyways. So, while we were talking, she would just talk about herself, and then she'd be like, you know what I mean? I'm like, yes, I know what you mean. You've said it a little too on the nose. I know what you're talking about. Everything that she said, she'd be like, you know what I mean? I'm like, yes, for the fucking Christ, yes. So she would talk over me, never let me have a chance to talk. Never once did this bitch ask me a goddamn thing about me. It was always about her. That's strike two. If I'm going to sit there and talk to you and I don't know you and we're supposed to be talking about like maybe meeting up or whatever, I don't want to fucking listen to you speak for 3 goddamn hours and not once ask anything about me. What are my hobbies? What are things I'm into? What's my favorite color, for instance? You know, some very basic bitch like 20 question game. Never once was brought up. And she kept saying like, oh, well, I was in the military. And I'm like, okay, I salute you. Thank you for your service. And she'd be talking about like, oh, I'm so smart. And I'm like, I don't think you are, but sure. And then she's like, well, you know, I'm smart because I'm in college. I'm like, there's a difference and a very fine line between education and intelligence. A lot of people don't understand that. The fact that she's 28 years old, and look, I don't even make videos about specific people about like situations like this. Just this bitch left me flabbergasted. I was just kind of like, what the fuck? And it was a colossal waste of my time. And I don't appreciate the waste of my time. So we're talking about all this, and it's like towards the 3-hour mark, and she had the fucking audacity that she goes, just before we go any further, and this is the only question she asked about me, by the way, she goes, are you big? And I was like, wait, what? And she goes, are you big? And I was like, I mean, I'm 6'2", and she goes, no, I need to know, like, your pants size, like in your pants, are you big? I was like, are you asking about my cock? And she goes, yeah, I just need to know, because the last guy I was talking to, oh god, I wasted 6 weeks talking to him, and I have a rule, I won't mess with a guy until it's 6 weeks in. I was like, that's entirely too early if you want to have an actual relationship, but okay. Like, the faster you do it, You just treat the shit like a handshake, and it's no, you got to know somebody. I mean, I know I sound like very old-fashioned, but if you want to settle down with somebody, make things real, this is what you do. A lot of people don't like that, but it's true. A lot of people just want to hit it and quit it, and it doesn't work that way, especially if you're trying to have a future with somebody. Now, take it, I'm not talking about that with her, of course. I just met the bitch. But, you know, and besides, like, who the fuck asked about that on the first day knowing somebody? But she started talking about this guy that she had talked to before me, and it was 6 weeks in, and she decided, okay, it's time to mess around. She goes to his house. He pulled his pants off. I guess his dick was like 4 inches or some shit, and she just dumped him on the spot. And she was like, I'm a size queen. I can't. Hopefully that doesn't make me sound bad, does it? I'm like, yes, absolutely. It makes you sound terrible. And she's like, well, I just don't want to waste my time. I'm like, you wasted his time. You didn't waste your time. You wasted this man's time. Because I guarantee you, he spent money, time, and effort to get your attention, to get you to continuously talk to him for this long. 4 inches? That's where you draw the line? Like, really? Do you understand the male suicide rate is so fucking high compared to women? This is why women are trash. Women are straight up fucking trash. I'm going to call this video that. And I know it's going to make somebody mad, but it's true. Women are trash. Never underestimate what you're worth, okay? Every man is a king. Don't forget that. I was just like, what? So she was asking me about mine. I was like, I don't know. And she goes, well, how do you not know? And I was like, because I've never measured it. Which is true. I've never once measured mine. Because I don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter. But I've never had a complaint. I've never once had somebody say I was small. But at the same time, I really don't give a fuck about it. Because who gives a shit? I still get girls all the fucking time if I try. I've never had a complaint about this shit. And it's not really a big fucking deal anyways. I don't need to compensate for anything. I'm not worried about it. So, I'm like, at the end of the day, who gives a shit? I don't really care. But it's just the fact that you have the fucking audacity to ask me this shit in the first day and then sit there and tell me how you not publicly. I mean, she's like, the way she's talking, I would just assume she'd be the one to make like an Instagram story about this shit. Or Snapchat, because she sounds like one of those weirdos that use Snapchat. So I'm just going to go ahead and say she publicly humiliated this poor man. That is strike 3 right there, dude. No. If you're so fucking disgusting and petty that you would leave a dude over his dick size on the first time seeing it, I have no words, man. It's just, and then you have you're even more ridiculous, you're even more goofy, and you want to sit there and say that he wasted your time. No, you wasted this man's time. I wasn't gonna let you waste my time. Because if you didn't find a problem with me in that regard, you might find a problem with me in some other regard. And you know how dating goes, the man has to pay for everything. Because let's face it, this bitch was a fucking Barbie doll. She wasn't going to pay for jack shit. I don't mind paying if I go out on dates and shit. I don't mind. But you're not going to take advantage of me and order whatever the fuck you want and just expect me to do it constantly. It doesn't work that way. The last girl I dated earlier this year, which was very brief, by the way. I was just more of like talking to somebody. But this bitch told me she did not agree with the fact that women have to pay equal, or that a relationship should be 50-50. And I'm like, so what's your longest relationship? She goes, oh, it's about 3 months. I'm like, oh, okay, that explains a lot. And she's like, well, it's not anything like that. It has nothing to do with, you know, what we're talking about. I'm like, oh, I think it does. I think it 100% does. Because you can't sit there and expect a man to do and pay for everything. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. Are you going to do half the work? Are you going to suck his dick when you get home? Are you going to wash the dishes, wash his clothes, put on his favorite show, get his slippers in his pipe? You going to do this shit? I don't think so. But it's okay for him to buy you everything? Of course it is. Of course. This generation of women are fucking trash. You ever realize how men are literally trying to go outside the US to date women? But you never see anybody from other countries trying to date anybody out here. Unless it's for a green card. But let's face it, that's the only reason. No one's out here trying to seek American women for love. American women are garbage. They're straight up trash. Another red flag I should mention too is I asked her what kind of musical, like what kind of genre of music she likes. She said Cardi B, Beyonce. I was like, okay, I got it right here. I was like, let me guess, you must like that song WAP or WAP, W-A-P, whatever, WAP. I don't fucking know. I don't listen to that garbage. She goes, yeah, I love that song. I'm like, oh, okay. This is making a lot more sense. And you know what? These are the kind of women that are going to go through a midlife crisis when they hit like their mid-40s, when they realize no man ever loves them. and they're gonna develop a stomach that looks like a can of like a busted can of biscuits. These are these kind of women, and they're gonna sit there and say men ain't shit until they go through that midlife crisis and realize that you're getting old, your tits are sagging, you can't afford the cosmetics anymore to make your tits look up, make your face look normal, and get rid of the crow's feet. You got to keep spending money on hair dye to fix all the grays in your hair, and you're gonna be alone. And what's worse, you won't have any grandchildren. And a lot of women are like, well, I don't want kids. Well, when you get older, you know what kind of keeps you going? It's your fucking grandkids. Young people are so stupid, my fucking god. Kings, know your worth. Women are trash. Don't settle for less. I don't give a fuck what they look like. They could be the sexiest fucking girl in the world. It doesn't fucking matter, especially to me. I don't give a fuck. You could be the most attractive fucking thing. You could look like Elizabeth Hurley or Christina Applegate or, I don't know, like any of these Victoria's Secret models. You could look like any one of them. One, if I don't have anything in common with you, two, you like look down on me and treat me like shit. Or if I find out you have a history of doing that to other people, I'm not gonna waste a fucking dime on you, much less 15 minutes with you. I'm telling you, the moment she started talking about that other guy's dick size, I was like, oh, okay. That was strike 3. We're officially done with this now. So, she texted me, I forgot to get to this part. No, she didn't text me. She told me on the phone, she's like, well, I'm going to go to bed. You need to go to bed too, alright? And I was like, yeah, no problem, dollface. I got you. I don't ever call anybody dollface. I've called one person dollface growing up. But with her, I was just like trying to butter her up. So I was like, okay, dollface, I'll call you. She goes, yeah, make sure you text me in the morning. I was like, okay, cool. I didn't. I woke up, I literally just blocked her on everything except for her phone number. And I left the phone number open for a very good reason. So I waited throughout the day. She didn't respond to me. And I was like, okay, but I never messaged her first. She's like, well, men are supposed to message first. It's about 7 o'clock yesterday. I'm doing something in my game with my friends, and she starts texting me like, well, where the fuck are you? Why aren't you talking to me? So I let her know about all this, and she thought I was crazy. I was like, there's a reason you are never going to get something on your finger. You do understand that, right? You're never going to be able to settle with anybody unless they're desperate. At the end of the day, that's what it is, and you're going to fuck that up yourself. I don't know. And she got fucking mad. She got fucking mad that I turned her down too. And then she started attacking me, calling me like a little geeky nerd and shit. And I was like, okay, you can call me whatever you want, but never forget, I turned you down. And I know that's going to hurt you a lot more than anything you can say can hurt me, because guess what? You can't actually offend me. Nobody can. You can't insult me. You can't offend me. I don't give a shit. Like, I brush everything off. I'm literally incapable of being insulted like that. If you're going to insult me, it's going to be because you're rude. It's not because you're, like, criticizing my appearance or anything like that. Because I just think everyone's stupid. If you're doing that to me, I just think you're an idiot by default. So I couldn't take somebody like that serious. But I know this burned her in the ass, alright? Because you know what? You can sit there and talk about how beautiful and how smart and intelligent and successful you are in life. I don't even know what the bitch did for a job. I don't know what she did for a living. But you can talk about all this stuff and make yourself look so good, like you're some kind of Picasso painting. But at the end of the day, you got denied by somebody like me, and I know that's going to hurt for the rest of your life. You're going to be thinking about that every single time you talk to anybody else. I know it, because I can tell how weak and fragile her ego is, and that is for me. Know your worth, my kings, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.